Chapter 18. The Descent into Darkness. The stone groaned beneath their feet, a deep, shuddering sound, like the mountain itself exhaling, echoed through the cavern. The vibrations rippled outward, making the mana veins in the walls pulse erratically. Then the ground gave way. The world dropped out from under them. Dolo barely had time to shout before the abyss swallowed them whole. The air was torn from his lungs as they plummeted. His body twisted mid-air, instincts flaring, searching for the others. Pip tumbled beside him, her tail snapping wildly, her mouth open in a silent scream. Fennex flailed, trying to right himself, his daggers clutched desperately in his hands. Tyron was roaring something, cursing the gods, no doubt, as he fell like a stone. Mako was rigid, his limbs locked, his eyes wide with something unreadable. Kaelin spiraled downward, mana flickering at her fingertips, but she had no time to channel anything substantial. Waya clutched her staff, the faint glow of its runes the only light in the suffocating dark. And ahead of them, Aros. The boy fell in eerie stillness, his silver hair streaming upward from the force of the fall. His golden eyes were half-lidded, as though he were somewhere else entirely. Dolo reached out, summoning his will. "Wind, help me." The air responded hesitantly, sluggish and strained, but it answered. A spiraling updraft twisted around them, slowing their descent. The currents caught them one by one, turning their deadly fall into a jarring but survivable impact. They slammed into the cavern floor. Dolo hit hard, rolling with the force of it, pain searing up his arm. He gasped, blinking through the dust and disorientation. Around him, the others groaned as they landed in heaps of limbs and weapons. Pip groaned, sprawled on her back amidst the rubble. "I hate falling." Fennex sat up with a grunt, shaking dust from his fur. "You and me both." His ears twitched, scanning their surroundings before he exhaled sharply. "That was a rough one." Pip rolled onto her side, rubbing her sore tail. "Ugh, that's an understatement." She winced, stretching her legs before sitting up. "I think my everything is bruised." Fennex gave her a sideways glance, brushing dirt from his tunic. "You good?" Pip flexed her fingers, testing for broken bones. "Still in one piece. Might take some emotional recovery, though." She let out a dramatic sigh. "I'm gonna be complaining about this for days." Fennex smirked. "Like you don't already." Pip shot him a glare, then shoved his shoulder. "Oh, shut up and help me up." Kaelin winced, rubbing her side. "Everyone intact?" "Alive. Not happy," Tyrion grumbled, "and probably bruised for a month." Waya was already kneeling beside Aros. The boy's breathing was shallow, his skin pale. Mana flickered faintly around him, but it was dim, drained. "He's weakened," she murmured. "The mana protected him, but he's fading." Mako stood slowly, his axe still in hand. His fingers brushed against the ground. The veins in the stone pulsed, red and sickly. His gaze darkened. "We're close," he muttered. "I can feel it." Dolo followed his gaze. The veins pulsed in rhythm with something vast, something breathing beneath them. Then came the whisper. "The heart weakens. The circle fractures. The village burns." The cavern stretched before them, immense and unnatural. Roots coiled along the walls like petrified serpents, their surfaces etched with glowing crimson sigils. The air was thick, metallic, charged with something wrong. Kaelin pressed her hand against the roots, her expression darkening. "These aren't just part of the mountain anymore. The corruption is spreading through them, like a disease." Tyrion grunted, gripping his axe. "And that means someone's behind it." Waya helped Aros sit up. His golden eyes flickered open, hazy with exhaustion. "The serpent is near," he whispered. "It knows we're here." Dolo stiffened. Why does it want the heart so badly? Aros exhaled shakily. Because the heart anchors the mana streams. If it breaks, Typhon can reach the surface. The weight of those words settled over them like a storm cloud. The serpent, Waya murmured. The world dweller. Dolo's stomach twisted. He thought of the world tree, of the roots they had walked for days, unaware of the war raging beneath them. This wasn't just about the heart, it was about the very fabric of reality. And it was rotting. Then we stop it, Dolo said, his voice hard. We get to the heart and we cut the shadow out. Mako didn't respond. He stood at the cavern's edge, staring into the next passage where the crimson veins thickened. His fingers curled tighter around his axe. His expression was distant, rigid. Dolo stepped toward him. Mako. The ground beneath Mako's feet vibrated subtly. He tilted his head as if listening. The tunnel beyond them was different, narrow, alive. The air moved, thick with unseen force. The mana pulsing in the walls flickered like veins under strained skin. Mako followed last as they moved forward, his steps slow. The whisper had grown louder. It wasn't just the shadow. It was the earth. Stonebreaker. You are the anchor, the key. Break the heart and free the earth. Mako rubbed his temple. The voice coiled tighter around his mind. Phoenix walked beside him, eyeing him warily. You good? Mako exhaled through his nose. Just listening. Pip, ahead of them, twisted back. Tell it to shut up. Mako didn't answer. Then at last, they reached it. The heart of mana. It was enormous. A crystalline structure suspended over a pit of swirling energy. It pulsed with deep blue-green light, casting ghostly reflections across the walls. Its roots stretched into the stone like arteries connecting to the world's core. But it was dying. Cracks marred its surface. Shadow veins had pierced it, threading through the crystal like a spreading infection. Aros sucked in a sharp breath. The seal is breaking. Waya took a step forward. If Varokan reaches the heart, mana will unspool. The world will unravel. Dolo tightened his grip on his spear. Then we stop it. Now. Aros turned, his golden eyes hard. We have to sever the corrupted veins. The heart can heal itself, but only if we cut out the darkness. Simple, Pip said. Cut the evil roots, stop the apocalypse. Got it. The group moved into position. Tyrion and Kaelin flanked the largest shadow vein. Tyrion's axe flared with silver light, while Kaelin summoned her shamanic energy, her hands glowing with green mana. Aros knelt by the heart, golden threads of mana stretching from his hands, weaving into the crystal, trying to mend what was already broken. Mako reached the largest vein. His axe hummed with earth mana. And then, the whisper screamed. Stop! If you sever this root, the cavern will collapse. The circle will die. Protect them, Stonebreaker. Protect your family. Mako froze. Memories slammed into him. His father's strong hands guiding his grip on an axe. His mother's warm smile. Lyra's laugh. All dead. Lost to Shadow Tribe raiders. The whisper twisted. It was Lyra's voice now. Don't let them die too, Mako. His axe shook. The others were severing the veins. The shadows recoiled. Aros pressed his hands against the heart, sweat beading on his brow. He looked up and met Mako's gaze and smiled. The whisper roared. Strike, Stonebreaker, now. Mako swung his axe, not at the vein, at Aros. The blade slammed into the boy's mana shield. Aros staggered, the force shattering the golden threads he had woven. The crystal's glow dimmed. The shadow veins surged toward the heart's core. Waya screamed. The cavern trembled. The serpent's laughter filled the abyss. and the heart of Mana began to break.